Today's Wednesday, so today and tomorrow are the last days for this lab, right? People seem like they're on track to finish something. I don't have the answer. Okay.
If there's no more hiccups.
Okay, the hiccups being not instrumental, but just organization. Okay, all right. So I want to talk about a few things, and we'll start in on subject. So today we're going to finish talking about chromatography, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, right? We're going to wrap that up. We're going to do a quiz on Friday in class. We'll cover all those stuff about chromatography. Several lectures, they're all posted now, but I'll repost what I talk about today. I'll update it on the website since the DB's a little bit actually posted. That'll be the same kind of a thing that you took home, and you'll want to be prepared to, make sure you understand how to determine resolution time from a chromatogram, really simple things like that, as well as how to maybe calculate plate height, things like that. Right? If you're given the information to do that, things that you'll be doing in the lab with your lab reports. So pretty straightforward. Should take about 15 minutes max is what I want to do. On Friday. Okay. Today we're going to start near the end, start talking about atomic absorbance, which is sort of moving on to the next section, and in preparation. We're starting lab number 3 on Monday and Tuesday next week. And I want to talk about the lab reports and kind of go over a schedule overview of kind of where we are, where you are. So I think I mentioned something early on in the class. Here's the start of the quarter. So here's the end of the quarter. Here's some kind of thing we might call work, your work. And so the class is kind of, the way it sort of goes, it sort of ramps up quickly, and then it peaks, and then it quickly comes down like that, right? It's a lot better than that than building to here, and then it's like, I think, in some ways. So by the time we finish, maybe another week or two, you'll be far enough along that the majority of the heavy effort will be behind you. Right now, we're probably right about there. Are here. So you know what you've done so far, and you know that the best is yet to come. Or the worst is yet to come. So for the schedule, I want to just kind of bring a few things up so that to make sure we're making a few modifications to what I have on the schedule. Very few. So we are here, right? And so you're finishing the lab work for lab 2 here. You turned in your reports, we modified this times a little bit for some of you. You turned in your final lab reports here, and we're going to hand them back to you on Friday. And we want you to have them on Friday so that you can use those final comments on that to prepare for what's coming next week. So I had here that if I want your reports due at 9 a.m., I'm going to change it to make it do the draft lab 2 reports due at noon. Monday, okay? Not 9 a.m. And I don't want them to do later because what people typically do sometimes in the past, if we have them do later on Monday, is they skip lab or they work on their lab, and so it's a distraction. So we can turn them in on noon on Monday instead of 9 a.m., okay? And the idea is what you're learning from the revision, the comments we've given you on Lab 1, is that you're applying those lessons to your Laboratory 2. And that's why we're going to hand them back to you by Friday, so you have those additional comments to kind of incorporate and learn from, and benefit from in preparation to your Lab 2. And I've asked the TAs, I'm going to remind Vince today and Taylor tomorrow, to specifically go over in lab and make sure you are aware of the differences between what we were asking for in the data report Lab 1 versus the Lab 2 report. Okay? Because the Lab 2 and Lab 3 are be full reports where you're going to have an introduction, talk about the instrument and the method. There's going to be more detailed discussion, so rather than have the abbreviated form that just focuses on the data, you'll have all the data, plus much more discussion. So it'll be a longer report, right? So it'll require a little bit more background and reading and so forth to be able to talk about some of the theoretical aspects of the method that you're using. And we do not expect you just to rely on what we talk about in class. Naturally, you want to go beyond the material we talk about in class to utilize other resources to do that. So I want them to talk to you today and tomorrow to remind you on that. And I remind you, please refer to the example for a full lab report that's on the website. Okay? And look, if you look at that kind of stuff ahead of time, just glance at it, even in lab. You can utilize the TAs as a resource today, tomorrow, to kind of go over any questions so you can sort of anticipate any things you might not quite understand when you start moving in on that. You all know that you have chromatograms from you've got pictures, everybody's going to have chromatograms from all the work you've done, right? I know this lab Lab 2 is challenging because the number of samples and dilutions, it's a realistic challenge that people would normally face in this kind of setting. And so you're making choices about which samples to analyze and how you're going to go about it, knowing that you probably will not be able to accomplish everything in terms of the replication and for all the unknowns as well as the name. So it's just very important when you make those choices that you're doing it as a group, and then when you talk about a lab report that you can start preparing, that you provide a rationale for the decisions that was made. Right? If things weren't accomplished, that's okay if there's an underlying reason why they weren't accomplished. Okay, so we'll have reports back to you on Friday from Lab 1. You'll benefit from that. You'll hand in the draft from Lab 2. It's worth more than the first one, right? It's a full report. You'll have that in on noon on Monday. I'm not pointing to the right place. Wherever. I'm here, sorry. Okay. And now the last thing I want to point out to you, because we're reaching this peak here in effort, is for Lab 4, it's unfortunately, or fortunately, it's time to start thinking about what do I want to do for my independent lab. Because a week from this Friday, so next Friday, which is whatever that is, next Friday, is that true? No. 2 Fridays. 2 Fridays, sorry, okay. 2 Fridays, that's good. 2 Fridays, you're going to be giving an oral presentation in class on the topic that you're proposing for your Lab 4. And there's guidelines on the website, I'll talk about that more, but it'll be like a 1 or 2 slide maximum thing where you're going to propose what it is you're going to do, what the rationale is, and what your approach is going to be, so that we can all judge, one, is it feasible in your hands in this class to do it and accomplish something, and does it seem interesting? And so that's going to be presented here, and the proposal for this work is going to be presented 2 weeks from this Friday. And so a bit of thought needs to go into it at a time. And I have never seen one case where students just show up and present something and have it be feasible. Right? So it's really smart to think of a few things and run them by me or the TAs beforehand so we can say, that's a good idea, that's not a good idea. Just so that you can kind of get to something that's going to be workable. And in this class, I think my experience has been that this Lab 4 is the thing that the students get the most out of and enjoy the most, because it's all you think it up, you make it happen. Some of it may involve instruments we have in this class, some of it may involve instruments you have access outside this class, right? We'll talk about the etiquette for that. But it's all you're doing, and students typically get a lot out of it. And what will come out of this is not a written report, but a full oral presentation in the last week of the class. Okay, so things are picking up, and you want to kind of get over this hump we're approaching now, so that you can then start being really creative.
Question. So for that lab 4 that we're gonna have to do instead of a full lab report, do the oral presentation, are we allowed to use like visual, like PowerPoint? Or?
Yeah. It'll be like a 20-minute thing, formal presentation. So you'll be presenting all your data and everything, right?
Okay.
And there's a format, we'll talk about that.
Are you with like a lab partner or on?
Yes. Yeah, two of your lab partners. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we are, that's where we're going. Okay.
Let's see if I can navigate this. See my cursor. Where is it?
It's not on the screen.
I know, it's good, because I don't see it. Let's see.
Are you double migrating? Or is it copying the same one?
You do the
Did it?
That's what I understood.
If you go on PowerPoint, you can do that.
And all right, so I want to just finish up what we were talking about with chromatography today. And so you now have a lot of experience generating these chromatograms that are showing, peaks of different whatever, peaks of different height or area, as well as resolution. And I think it's kind of, I think it'd be good now to kind of summarize some of the factors that you have control over to help